minus 4 times 2 minus 5, which is 4 minus 8 minus 5, which should be negative 9. So our vertex is the point 2, negative 9. All right, that's part A. Part B, find the x-intercepts. How do you find the x-intercepts of a quadratic function? Set it equal to 0. Set the equation, the entire function, equal to 0. How do you solve this quadratic equation? You either factor or quadratic formula, one or the other. This one factors. You get two solutions, 5 and negative 1. I know I'm working fast, but this is called the final exam review because we've done this. Okay, that's part B. Part C, how do you find the y-intercept? Plug in what? Plug in 0 for x. So you're going to replace all the x's with zeros, and all you are left with is negative 5, right? Negative 5? By the way, if you want to write these as points, you can. 5, 0, negative 1, 0. And if you want to write this as a point, it would be the point 0, negative 5. Does this graph have a maximum or a minimum value? What is it? Minimum, how do you know? This opens which way? Up, because A is positive, right? Since this number is positive, the parabola looks like this, which means it has the lowest point. Now, I ask you to graph it on part E. So part D, it has a minimum. Why? Because it opens up, so it has that smallest value. Now, for part E, the graph, how do we graph this? We just put all the information we just found on here, right? Our vertex was 2, negative 9. Here's 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So my vertex is right about here. My x-intercepts are at negative 1 and 5. I have a y-intercept at negative 5. Remember that thing called an axis of symmetry? You don't have to draw it. And we're going to draw a V. A V? No. Remember, it's a U, right? Draw a little U. U-shaped parabola. Moving along. Are y'all doing all right? Is this kind of an information overload, or does it seem like we've done all this, just kind of bringing it all back? Yeah? All right, 17. An appliance store finds that if it sells X televisions per month, its cost will be blah. Its revenue will be blah. Okay, find the profit function. So the profit function is revenue minus cost. So my profit function, this part A, will be my revenue function, which is negative 5x squared plus 900x, minus my cost function, which is 100x plus 28,355. Profit is revenue minus cost. We good? Distribute that negative through and collect like terms. Good? Minus 100x, take those 900 minus 100, give you 800, and then negative sign there. That's my profit function. This is the answer to part A. Part B says what? Break-even point. Break-even point is when revenue equals cost, but you can also say it's when your profit is what? 0. So why don't we just take this profit function and set it equal to 0? Uh-oh. 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 Ew. That's a pretty ugly looking quadratic equation that you have to solve. Now let's try and simplify some things here. Because this is an equation, I can multiply or divide both sides by any number I want. And notice that these are all multiples of 5, aren't they? So why don't we divide by -5? That'll give us a nice clean 1 out here, won't it? Divide this by -5, divide this by -5, and then of course 0 divided by -5 will still be 0. So that won't be a problem. And what we do is we get a new equation that's a little bit easier to work with. It's not that great, it's still not that pretty, but it's a little easier to work with. So we should have x squared, then what? What is it? Minus 160, good. And then plus 5,671 equals 0. So notice that all the signs change, right? It went from a negative, positive, negative to positive, negative, positive. I just don't like people on their phones, man. I just don't like it. I just find it disrespectful. You know? It's every time you're always on your phone. Who else am I talking about? What do you have in your lap? I understand. You are slightly paying attention, but it's still, it's a policy that I have in the syllabus because I do find it disrespectful. I know it's like a different day and a different age and all that stuff, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? All right. Maybe I'm just too old school. What do we do?
Quadratic formula.
Quadratic formula. If you were acing every test I was giving you, I wouldn't care. But there's maybe 2 people in here that are in that group, and they don't play on their phones. All right, so quadratic formula is the only thing you really have. Well, unless you can come up with the factors of this, you might be able to do AC method. I don't know. But it might take too much time. So here we would do x is equal to negative b plus or minus square root of b squared, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's move on to the next problem. You could get those. Maybe next class someone can volunteer what they got for the answer. I'm just curious. I'm going to use my phone for a second, but I'm going to do it for some math-related stuff. I'm just curious what happens here. Solve x squared minus 160x plus 5,671 equals 0. Let's see if we're there yet. We're not there yet, okay? That day will come, but we're not there. That would be nice. I'm sure there's a website I could go to that would do that for me. All right, number 18. A profit function is given. All right, so they give you this quadratic. Find the number of products produced and sold to yield the maximum profit. So for 18, all right, so I'll give you a chance to redeem yourself right now. Okay? How do I do part A? Number 18, part A.
Products produced.
Hmm?
Wouldn't you first need to
Read it.
X?
Find the number of products produced and sold to yield a maximum profit. That's a profit function. How do you find the maximum of that profit function?
Wouldn't you need to set the x squared? Well, I know like the first.
I think I'm making my point.
Yeah.
Okay? Point is, when you're doing this, I mean, your brain's in two different places. It just doesn't work. I can sit here and show you, obviously, right? But that's part of the problem when you learn, is that when I'm showing you, I know the right way, right? I know. When you're sitting there watching me, you need to be thinking about, how do I do that? How do I do that? Before I actually show it to you. So, how would you do part A? What do you need if you want to try and find the maximum of that thing? Okay, so the X-Intercepts, the X-Intercepts would be where your profit would be 0. That's not what we want. This is what type of graph is this? Quadratic. Does it open up or down? Down. It opens down, right? And it wants to know that. It wants the vertex. That's what it wants, right? And we have a formula for this. Now, specifically, when it says find the number of products produced and sold to yield the maximum profit, do they want the H or the K? If they want the number of products produced. Read part B also. Part B says find the maximum profit, right? So when we graph this, profits here, X is here is the number of items we sell, right? So when you find this point, HK, right? H is this, and K is this, right? So part A wants the number of products produced. Part A wants H, and part B wants K. So all you're going to use is the formula. H is negative B over 2A, but A is negative 2. So what is that? Negative 400 over negative 4? Positive 100. That answers part A. You got to sell 100 products. Now look, the only reason this works is because it's a parabola. All right? If this were not a parabola, this doesn't work. Part B. How do you get part B? K, but how do you get K? You plug that value of 100 back into this function and see what it spits out. So you're going to go negative 2 times 100 squared plus 400 times 100 minus 15,000. And then you work that out. I'm waiting for someone to get that for me. What do you get? 5,000. Anyone else get 5,000? Anyone else trying? No? Let's see. Negative 20 plus 40. Really? 5,000? 40, 20. Oh, yeah. Minus 15,000. There we go. Okay, 5,000. You will have a maximum profit of $5,000 if you are able to sell 100 items. The key to this is to understand that, look, what this is saying is that for this particular company, if they sell 100 items, they're going to make the most money they could possibly make, which is $5,000. If you were to sell 110 items, you would actually be losing money. Even though you're selling more, you're losing money because maybe to make and manufacture those, your costs become higher. Maybe you have to run the machines for an extra shift and therefore your profit's going to actually drop. So this is where you want to be, all right? You don't want to go over that. All right, number 19 we're skipping, so don't worry about 19. 20. Okay, so 20A. I'm going to have to wrap it up after this. For 20A, I'm going to do natural log of 1,85974 over natural log of 2. This was a formula that I gave you. This was called the change of base formula. Log base A of x equals natural log x over natural log A. I don't think I used these letters, but do you remember that formula that you could do any logarithm on your calculator because all you need is the natural log key? So for part A, that's how you do the computation. I think for part B and part C, we're going to get some more practice on those as we move through some of these other word problems. But just realize number 20 is just calculator stuff. All right? I'll bring my calculator next class and we'll make sure we get those, we'll get answers to those. 21, I have 30 seconds. I'm going to write 21 up here and I'm going to just write the answer and then you can tell me what I did. That's the answer. What did I do? Yeah, I used a property of logs that said that if you had, remember this property said if you had two logs with subtraction, you could put it into one with division. I used that same property backwards. I took division and turned it into two logs with subtraction. Okay, we didn't quite make it to 25, but we'll stopped at 21. We'll come back, we'll see what we can do. Feel free to work through any of the problems at home, you know, because even if I don't finish this, this is still the review, all right? Have a good day. Yes?